and a very warm welcome to It Is What It Is with Wamoyo Favor, the captain. Kawaida, I want to thank you so much for your likes, the shares, the subscriptions, and your love towards the show. May the Lord do well, and may the Lord fulfill the desires of your heart in 2025. We are still proceeding with the ways in which the Asian dragon captures its victims into its mouth. Today, we are going to look at yet another way in which the Asian dragon captures its victims into its mouth. And it's to the honor and glory of God that I say that this is the second last point that we shall be looking at. Today's point is the ancient dragon sexual immorality uses people who are in high position, who have got influence or power or ranks. These people tend to take advantage of the vulnerable in the society. When you talk about the vulnerable, there are various groups that fall into this bracket. The vulnerable can be the homeless, the orphans, the widows, even single mothers can fall in this category, and the jobless. Now, in the modern day life, these people with high positions take advantage of, for example, people who have no jobs. And this applies to both males and females. Siku hizi kumekuwa kubaya. There's an outcry in the country that hakuna jobs. So if you're a lady and a gentleman and you're not firm in your decisions and your way of life, utajikuta umeingia into this trap of these people who take advantage of their positions, power, and ranks. So what they do, kama wewe uko jobless, as a lady ama a gentleman, you take your papers, you take your CV. They are not gonna give you that job for free. And they are not even blinking about it. They'll tell you, you know what? You cannot get this job for free. Hata kama uko qualified, you are not gonna get it just like that. You are not gonna get it on a silver platter. So they use their position ama their rank in the company. Wanakwambia, if you want this job, you have to sleep with me. So ni wewe utamake your decision if you want an easy way out or you will wait upon the Lord akupatie job in the right way. And this is something I mentioned some time back. There's no need of getting a job in the wrong way, because number one, your job haitakupatia furaha, and number two, you're gonna remain to be somebody's slave, because they'll keep reminding you, remember how you got this job. So for you to maintain that job, you will have to keep sleeping with this person. What is the point of being somebody's slave? What is the point of being used? Mwili wako tulisema ni hekalu, and I'll never stop saying this. So why should you subject your body to a person for you to sustain a job? It is not worth it. And like I'm saying again, this applies to both ladies and gentlemen. Hakuna mtu wako safe, wote wana fall into that bracket. Kuna wale wako homeless. There are people who take advantage, imagine, of the homeless. There are people who take advantage of the mentally challenged people when you wako kwa streets. Why would you take advantage of somebody's vulnerability just because they are mentally challenged, just because they are homeless and they have nowhere to go? That is so wrong. Kuna wale wengine wana take advantage of orphans. Mtu ameachiwa responsibility, bada achunge the orphans, anataka ku-exploit sexually, and that is so wrong. We've seen it in children homes. We've seen it, there's an outcry in homes whereby unasikia, oh, my uncle has been sexually exploiting me, but I have nothing to do, I have nowhere to go. Wengine ina get to worse cases that it's my father-in-law who is doing this to me and there's nothing I can do. I'm trying to tell my mother, she's not acting, she's not believing me. So these things are there. Pia kuna wale wana take advantage of widows and single mothers. In the name of I shall marry you. In the name of I'll take care of your children. In the name of I'm going to give you a stable future. And they well know hakuna kitu kama hiyo. They are giving them false hopes. So they enter them into sexual immorality wakiwapea false hopes, taking advantage of the vulnerable. Why? Because they have got positions, because they have got influence, and because they have got ranks. So wanatumia cheo zao vibaya. And this is not an exception with the men of God. kuna watu wanajiita men of God. I know this we talked when we were starting this series of sexual immorality. Tukasema kuna wale wanasema ni men of God, but surely wanaingiza washirika ama wale watu wako innocent into sexual immorality. Like they are taking advantage of people who are naive, people who do not know what the Bible speaks about them in as far as sexual immorality or purity is concerned. And tulisema hautasimama mbele ya Mungu useme ati so and so ati mtumishi wa Mungu aliniingiza into sexual immorality. No, utasimama peke yako na utasema na utajibu why ulitikia kuingizwa into sexual immorality, because there was all kind of material for you to learn and know what you should do and what you should not do. So hakuna ile excuse, because ignorance haitakuwa excuse. You need to be well equipped. You need to be mature enough to jua what is wrong and what is right. So one thing I have to tell you, hakuna mtu atasimama mbele ya God aseme ati yo a man of God ni aliniingiza into sexual immorality, ati hata mimi sikuwa huko. No, you shall be answerable to your God kivyako, na yeye atakuwa answerable to God kivyake. Kila mtu atapiga magoti mbele ya Mungu kivyake. So this thing of a man of God entered me to sexual morality, that is not an excuse. Just because someone is calling themselves a man of God does not give you a green light at you go into sexual immorality na be it a bishop, be it an apostle, be it a pastor, be it an evangelist, whatever the title. Hakuna mtu anajiitanga man of God unafaa kuingia into sexual immorality na yeye. Hakuna mtu anafaa kukuconvince ati just because I'm a man of God ati this thing is right. No. Sexual immorality is sexual immorality. Sexual sin is sexual sin. Hata kama ni man of God, it is wrong. Say no without apologies. Because hata mbele ya God, hakuna hukumu. Kuna some men of God who take advantage of their titles and wanataka kuhukumu watu. Ati just because you're saying no to their sexual advances, now they want to make you feel guilty. They want to intimidate you that, oh, I'll curse you. Oh, ati maisha yako itakuwa mbaya. No, do not give in to such intimidations, so long as you are doing what is right in the eyes of God. And so long as hata mtu amekukuta na sexual advances na ujekuwa rude, you are just walking away, you are sorted. Let nobody intimidate you into sexual immorality just because they have got titles as a man of God. Because me, I believe as a man of God, anafaa kukudirect into the ways of God, si kukupotoza. But kuna wale watu wanajiita men of God, and instead of leading people into the path of the Lord or what God expects of us, wanaondoa watu. So it's upon you to decide which path are you taking. Usitikia mtu akudecide which path. We are living in a dirty world. We are living in a confused world. Usipojua wewe kenye unataka, utaingizwa kwa shimo. Ukisema tu ni man of God, just wake up and smell the coffee. Hata the Bible inasema test the spirits. Ni watu wengi sana wanachafulia true men of God jina. They are mushrooming from everywhere, claiming to be men of God. They have all sort of titles. Wanachafulia the genuine men of God majina. So it is upon you to have the spirit of discernment. Ujue, huyu mtu ananiambia nifanye hivi na hivi. Is a true bishop supposed to be doing this? Is a true apostle supposed to be doing this? Is a true pastor supposed to be doing? It's upon you to discern the spirits. It's upon you to test the spirits. What am I saying? We should be very vigilant. We should be so active and alert. We should not let people take advantage of our vulnerability kutuingiza into sexual immorality. Whether we are jobless, whether we are homeless, whether we are widows, whether we are single mothers, whatever it is that can make us vulnerable. Ifanye watu wachukue position zao, ranks zao, influence yao ama power kutuingiza into sexual immorality. No, we should be wise. We should be very discerning in these times because the days are evil. That is in relation to modern day life. Now we are going to look at biblical examples of people who took advantage of their ranks, positions, power or influence to enter others into sexual immorality. And the first example we are going to look at is found in Genesis 12. This is the story of Abraham and Sarah. So Abraham wameingia Egypt. It is a new territory unto them. And Abraham gives Sarai a disclaimer. Anamwambia niaji, we are entering into this land, but please, tukiingia hapa, please ukiulizwa, say you are my sister. And kitu nilikuwa najiuliza, they have just entered Egypt, hawajakuwa na interaction na mtu, wajue what will happen. But already Abraham alikuwa ameambia Sarai, you know what, tukiingia pale, because you're such a beautiful woman, please, for the sake of my life, nisiuliwe. Juu unajua wataniua na wakuchukue because you're a beautiful woman. Just say you are my sister. So, the fact that Abraham aliwon Sarah inaoneshana ini trend ilikuwa. It was a known fact in Egypt that every beautiful woman or every fine woman belonged to either the Abimelech or Pharaoh. Ebu tusome hiyo scripture ndio we have a deep understanding of what I'm talking about. Genesis 12:10 to 14. Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. As he was about to enter Egypt, As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but will let you live. Say you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you. Unaona, already in history ilikuwa imetrend. Kuna julikana fine women in Egypt are usually taken away. Wakue wa Pharaoh. When Abraham came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that she was a very beautiful woman. And when Pharaoh's officials saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. And she was taken into his palace. He treated Abram well for her sake, and Abram acquired sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, men servants, maid servants, and camels. Imagine when the officials of Pharaoh waliona tu Sarai, they went like, wow, that woman is beautiful. Lazima tumpeane kwa Pharaoh. So nilikuwa najiuliza, what was making Pharaoh think that he's God's gift to women? Ati wanawake wakikuja and they are fine, ati lazima wakue mabibi wa Pharaoh. You see what I'm talking about? Position, rank, influence. Ati juu it is Pharaoh, he deserves yani kila mwanamke mzuri. Because he's Pharaoh. Because he's got position. Because he's got a rank. Because he's got power and influence. Yani Abraham, or Abram by then, ni wife yake, but hana right ya wife yake. Inamaanisha angeingia kule aseme ni wife yake, angeuliwa na wamchukue. Why? Because walikuwa na believe this beautiful woman has to be Pharaoh's, nobody else's. So unaona, so this is a platform of entering people into sexual immorality. Because how can you take somebody's wife and you make them yours? And this is somebody's wife. This is not a virgin or something. Uyu ni mwanamke akona bwana. Yet you've taken them to be your wife. You are entering them into sexual immorality. You're also entering into sexual immorality because ukichukua mwanamke mwingine already uko na wengine. Because this is a trend. So every beautiful woman who sets their foot in Egypt, they become yours because you believe as the Pharaoh, you deserve to have all the beautiful women. Yani wewe lazima uzingirwe na all the beautiful women. So nobody else deserves kuwa na a beautiful woman in that land. A beautiful woman akiingia huko na husband yake, lazima husband auliwe, wife achukuliwe. Taking advantage of position, ranks and influence to do what? To enter people into sexual immorality. And ikitu ilikasirisha God, cause hapo chini verse 17, but the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abraham's wife Sarai. This is wrong. Utachukuaje bibi ya mtu umfanye wako just because you are Pharaoh? So because you have a title, because you have a position. This is so wrong. And this is one way in which the Asian dragon used to enter people into sexual immorality. Same thing happens in Genesis 20. Now Abraham moved on from there into the region of the Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar. And there Abraham said to his wife Sarah, she is my sister. So inaonekana for every foreign land they step into, it is a trend. Every beautiful woman who sets foot in the land belongs to the king of that land. We said Pharaoh and Abimelech, hizo zilikuwa matitles. So they have entered into this foreign land. And so Abraham anaambia Sarah again, remember what we talked. Usiseme mimi ni bwanako. Say you are my sister. And so this is exactly what happened. So Abimelech took Sarah again to be his wife. Let us read on. And there Abraham said to his wife Sarah, she is my sister. Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her. But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night and said, you are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman. Now Abimelech had not gone near her. That's the beauty about it. God alimtokelezea. Yani ilikuwa too much. Kidogo kidogo ni Pharaoh, kidogo kidogo ni Abimelech. Sarah was being entered into sexual sin. Imagine. Sarah was being entered into sexual sin na Abraham. Na Abraham si kutaka. Juu anaona mimi nikisema this is my wife, aki nitauliwa na bado atachukuliwa. So instead ya niuliwe na achukuliwe, si afadhali nikae na yeye achukuliwe tu kaa bado namuona. But you see, this thing was not pleasing God. Kule mbele, unaona, he inflicted Pharaoh with diseases, all his household, because it was wrong. Again here Abimelech repeats the same thing. But this time now, God did not let it happen. Alimtokelezea kwa dream kumwambia ni aje, you are as good as dead because you've taken somebody's wife. But you know, Abimelech hako anajua. So alikuwa very fast to take action. Akaremedy that situation. But you see, had God not intervened, Sarah tena angeingizwa into sexual sin. Why? Because of somebody somewhere wanting to take advantage of their position, influence, ama rag. So they feel, I'm the Abimelech in this place. I should own the best women in town. I should own the beautiful women in town. So every beautiful woman that sets foot in this place belongs to me. So that is how women were being entered into sexual sin, and it is so wrong. Another example we are going to look at is seen in Genesis 39. This is a very interesting story of Potiphar's wife and Joseph. Hii ni story tunaijua sana, tena sana. Tunajua the story of Joseph venye alikuja akakuja akauzwa mpaka akauzwa into a foreign land. And now he gains favor in the eyes of God. Akajipata ako in charge over Potiphar's house and everything. So now the Bible records that Potiphar's wife had been taking note of Joseph. Joseph was handsome and well built. Where? So Potiphar's wife akajua ni aje hapa. I'm going to take advantage of my position as the Potiphar's wife to lure Joseph into sexual immorality. Unakumbuka venye tulisoma about the adulterous woman? They eat, wipe their mouth and pretend they have not done anything. Imagine Potiphar's wife anajua ni wife ya mtu, but anahemea Joseph. Hataki kutambua. This is the way of the adulterous woman. And tulisema, we should not go near her house. She lurks around the corners, waiting to pounce on her prey. We should stay woke. Thank God for Joseph. Alikuwa alert. Ebu, let us read this story tuelewe what happened. Juu Potiphar's wife alikuwa na take advantage ya the fact that yeye ni Potiphar's wife. And kama kawaida alikuwa najua, just like the Abimelechs and the Pharaohs walikuwa najua, ni mimi kusema hakuna mwanamke anaweza nikataa, kila mwanamke ananitaka. They throw themselves at me. So they thought. So pia Potiphar's wife was thinking that Joseph was going to throw himself at her. Shock on her. This is what happened. Now Joseph, that is, we'll go straight to verse 6. That is Genesis 39 verse 6. Now Joseph was well built and handsome, and after a while his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, come to bed with me. The book of Proverbs inasemanga aje, the adulterous woman anasemanga, I've already covered my bed with very nice sheets, nimezi perfume, and we are ready. Let us drink of love till morning. Na kama wewe hauko alert, you will be lured into this trap. So this is exactly what Potiphar's wife alikuwa anafanya. Alikuwa ana take note of Joseph and was waiting for an opportune time. So when the opportune time came, akaambia Joseph, come to bed with me. This is very interesting. But he refused. I love Joseph. Akasema, with me in charge, he told her, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. Very intelligent. How then can I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? This is very nice. You remember we said the lack of the fear of God ndio inafanyanga watu waingie into sexual immorality. Joseph had the fear of God. Imagine there was nobody in the house. There was nobody in the room. So Joseph angetaka kuingia into sexual immorality with the Potiphar's wife. Angeingia, ajipanguze mdomo na aseme I have not done anything. And that is what Potiphar's wife alikuwa na expect. Because after all, I'm a beautiful woman. I'm Potiphar's wife. If you come sleep with me, you shall continue enjoying privileges. And kwa wale watu wako loose, that is what they would want. And actually that is what Potiphar's wife alikuwa na expect, that hello, I'm Potiphar's wife. If you sleep with me, kuna advantages utakuwa ukiget, kuna benefits utakuwa ukiget, and we can make this a habit, you know. When my husband is not there, you can come in, take his place, and let's do our thing, and nobody is gonna know. But Joseph had the fear of God. The fear of God will hinder you from entering into sexual immorality. Hata saa zile watu hawaoni, hata saa zile watu hawatajua. Hakuna kitu muhimu like having the fear of God in you. It is the fear of God in you that will shelter you from sexual immorality. The fear of God is what actually shielded Joseph from entering into sexual immorality. History of Joseph really makes me happy. I wish all of us were like that. Yani having the fear of God in us. Si zile za kujificha ati wewe kama manzi umeambiwa na bishop fulani let's cruise, sijui tuendo wapi, you enter into sexual immorality. Na unajua wife yake hatajua, washirika wengine hawatajua, let's do this. After all, there are benefits nini. Foolishness of the highest degree. Why? You do not have the fear of God in you. Sitaki kuongea sana hapo. So now Potiphar's wife did not take no for an answer. Aliendelea kujaribu. So verses 11 says, one day he went into the house. So she didn't give up. Aliendelea tu na Joseph akona ile msimamo, anasema no, it cannot happen. So one day he went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants was inside. She caught him by his cloak and said, come to bed with me. Imagine, she caught him by the cloak and said, come to bed with me. But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. I want to throw a challenge to you. Kama ingekuwa hizi enzi, mwanamke mdosi akwambia niaje, come to bed with me, I'll give you all the benefits you want. How many young people, or even how many watu wazee wanaeza itikia kukataa hiyo offer? Only a few people that have the fear of God in them. And that is how serious it is. Shetani anajuanga. Cause hapa hakukuwa mtu kwa hao. So Joseph angetaka kufanya Kenya nataka. But the fear of God. So he ran out of the house. When she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house, she called her household servants. Look, she said to them, this Hebrew has been brought to us to make sport of us. He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak behind me and ran out of the house. She kept his cloak beside her until his master came home. Then she told him this story. That Hebrew slave we brought to us came to make sport of me. But as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. When his master heard the story of his wife, he said, this is how your slave treated me. He burnt with anger. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. Now, kuna kitu moja tunafaa tuelewe. Potiphar's wife, just because she was Potiphar's wife, alifikiria everybody lazima amtake. So, whatever Joseph did, ilikuwa not haikuwa to her expectations. She did not believe it. She couldn't believe it. And it so happens, unaona watu wanakuanga na positions, ranks, influence. When such people approach a person when they approach you sexually, and they want to enter into sexual immorality, or they approach you, they make sexual advances at you, they automatically expect that as a lady you are gonna throw themselves at them, because he's a bishop, because he's a CEO, because he's a director, because akona majina kubwa kubwa, akona wafuasi, akona nini, whatever, akona mali and everything. So because of that that thing in them of feeling I have a position, I have a rank, I've got power and influence, they expect automatically, if it's a man, that girls are gonna throw themselves at them. If it's a lady, and I expect that the men are gonna throw themselves at her. So Potiphar's wife could not believe what Joseph alimfanyia. So alikuwa na mahasira na shindwa. So who does Joseph think he is? Anakata advances zangu atakipatapata. So usually what happens, I say they cannot take no for an answer. Ukikata, they revenge. They make your life hell. They make you miserable. They can even frame you for something. They can even set you up. They can even kill you just because you said no. And this is exactly what Potiphar's wife did. Just because Joseph alikata kuingia into sexual immorality, akam frame up. Joseph akaingia happy prison. We all know that prison. We all know venye kulienda kwa prison. And we all know how God delivered Joseph kutoka kwa prison. So let us not be intimidated na watu wako kwa power, watu wako na influence, watu wako na ranks, ati watu ingiza into sexual sin. No. Atuwezi kubalio maneno. We need to trust God. The same way Joseph alitrust God akambail out. It is the same way. Kama ni job unataka, trust God atakupe job. If you are a widow, kumbuka God is the husband to the widows. If you are fatherless, kumbuka God is the father to the fatherless. Imagine kama uko homeless, ujue God, Psalm 68 inasema, he's the one who brings people together in families. He's able to do away with their loneliness. Yani he's able even to remove the captives from being prisoners. Awaeke huru waende wakiimba na nyimbo na shangwe na nini. He's well able to break the chains. So let us not fall victim into watu wanataka kututeke advantage sexually because of their positions, ranks and everything. Let us put our trust in God. Let us fear God. He's well able to do everything. Juu watu wako na position na ranks ni God amewape. Only that how I realize they are using their positions, their ranks and influence vibaya. Because remember, promotion does not come from east or west. It's only God that can lift a man. So our watu wanatumianga positions zao na ranks na influence vibaya to exploit people sexually. They forget that it is God who has placed them in that position. So it is upon you as the other party kujua huyu mtu amewekwa hapo na God. Ujue this person is not God. Don't give in to their sexual advances. Usikuwe desperate uinge into sexual sin. Ati jumtu ni CEO, jumtu ni bishop, jumtu ni whatever the title it is, usitambue. Put your trust in God. See that God in here amewaeka hapo. The same God is able to lift you. Remember, he's the same God. Anatoanga the poor from trash. Anaweka wanakula pamoja na wafalme. He's able to exalt you. He's able to enthrone you with kings. Usiangalie position ya mtu, usiangalie nini ya mtu. Just trust God, fear God. He's well able to place you where you ought to be. Let us not forget that. Let us not be entered into sexual immorality by anybody or anything. Let us not be intimidated by titles or whatever it is. Let us stick firm. Let us have the fear of God in us. Let us trust God, who is able to bail us from every situation. The other example we are going to look at is found in 2 Samuel 11. This is the story of David, the man after God's own heart. Now David, you all know, alikuwa mfalme wa Israel. So siku moja anatembea tu hivi kwa balcony on top of the roof kwake. Kucheki kule chini, anaona a woman bathing. Hey, anaona na ule mwanamke, I think ni mrembo. Imagine he did not stop there. Cause anafilia ni king, akona position, akona influence, akona nini ni yeye kusema. Akasema ni aji, akatumana. Niitiwe ule mwanamke, find out who she is. A report is brought, anaambiwa who she is, na anaambiwa ni bibi ya mtu. Imagine, he does not stop there. Anatumana aletewe. Hebu nimsomee hiyo story niache kumbreakia down kila kitu. 2 Samuel 11, let's read. One evening, that is tutanza verse 2. One evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful. David. And David sent somebody to find out about her. Yani David could not stop. I mean, ukiona, uwezi sema ujeona kitu. Yani David had to go a step further. And David sent somebody to find out about her. The man said, "Isn't this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam and the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" Imagine, he went another step further. Then David sent messengers to get her. She came to him and he slept with her. Unaona ile makosa tunasema? Yani, Bathsheba, si alijua yeye ni bibi ya mtu. But, juu umeitwa na mfalme unalala na yeye. Surely. Bathsheba, if you are here, I would ask you a question. Juu ni mfalme amekuita unalala na yeye. Ati because the word of the king is law. Taujinga. Haifai kuwa hivyo. Hapa ndio tunasema tunafaa kuweka wisdom. Hata kama ni mfalme amekuita and the word of the king is law, ati amekuambia sleep with me, ati juu his word is law, unalala naye na unajua wewe ni wife ya mtu. It is not proper. But that is Bathsheba for you. And this is the kind of thing we should avoid. We should avoid being Bathshebas. Ati wewe ni mke wa mtu, unaitwa na mtu, juu yeye ni mfalme, juu yeye ni CEO, juu yeye ni bishop, juu yeye ni nani, ati unalala na yeye, ati unyenyekevu. Ati this is sheer foolishness. You should not do that. This is how somebody is entered into sexual immorality. Now Bathsheba was entered into sexual immorality. Imagine alitoka hapo akaendea bwanake. And then anatuma report, anaambia David, at you know what, I'm pregnant. Sasa madhambi zote zilianza hapo. Bathsheba is entered into sexual immorality because aezi sema no to the king. Aezi sema no to the king. Na yeye David juu ni mfalme, hangeona mwanamke beautiful na atosheke. Lazima angeenda kufind out ni nani, na hata akiambiwa ni wife ya mtu, hange stop there. Lazima ange sleep with her. Juu yeye ni mfalme. Ni yeye kusema. Akona position, akona rank na influence. Bathsheba really makes me mad. Ananikasirisha tu vibaya. I don't want to think about it. But what I'm saying is, King David also alitake advantage ya position yake. Atijue ni mfalme, akatumana mwanamke wa wenyewe, bibi ya wenyewe, aletwe kwake na walale na yeye. So mimi nashindwa. Hiyo story I was trying to imagine ilianza aje? Ati ni aje? Ati unaitwa nani? Ati mimi naitwa Bathsheba na mimi ni wife ya Uriah. Imagine now Uriah, imagine akokwa. Kai, me I hate to think about this. Imagine Uriah alikuwa a soldier kwa kikosi ya David ya vita. Na that did not make David shudder. Na Bathsheba alijua this is King David and my husband is a soldier kwa kikosi yake, and that did not make her shudder. So I can imagine mi naitwa Bathsheba, mi ni wife ya Uriah. Oh, na David is like, oh, Uriah, yule soldier. Oh, he's a very nice man, nini. David anaanza tu advances. Na Bathsheba is falling into the advances. Yani, mi nauliza, from beginning to end, I mean, how do you even reach to the point ya mtu anakuingiza into sexual immorality, unalala na yeye and even become pregnant? I fail to understand. Kwani ulikuwa unangoja? Yani unaitwa hapo na unakimbia, you have sex with somebody and you become pregnant for them. Me, this foolishness is not our portion. This is not the foolishness of our girls in Jesus' name. This is not even the foolishness of our young men in Jesus' name. We should not, and we will not. Our children will not enter into this foolishness in the mighty name of Jesus. Because me, sioni kama nikuwa naive. Hii sikuwa naive. Hata Bathsheba hakuwa sawa, because is it because this is the king and you cannot say no to him? This is what I'm talking about. Should you throw yourself at somebody because they are king? Should you throw yourself at somebody because they have titles? This is so bad. Inafanya tu nikasirike, but this is what you should move away from. Inafaa tujitambue na tujipatie heshima. Bathsheba angetambua yeye ni mke wa mtu, ajipatie heshima. ambie David kwa heshima zake, "O king, live forever, but I'm somebody's wife. This thing we cannot do." Na ingekuwa ni bora, lakini sasa birds of a feather, what can we say? Alafu after David aliambiwa she's pregnant, hapo ndipo alianza kuplot venye the husband ataenda kulala na wife yake ndio ati ball ikueni yake. But Uriah, imagine, alikuwa so dedicated to David, alisema aezi enda kulala kwake when the others hawaendi kulala kwao. Ati yeye ako so dedicated na hiyo vita walikuwa napigana. Imagine somebody, he was a very dedicated. This is betrayal of the highest degree. Yani we umejitoa kwa mtu but somebody is busy going behind your back and sleeping with your wife. This is so painful. And these are the kind of things that zina happen in the modern today life. By the way, Biblia ikuangi storybook. Hii story inakuanga real. Hii ni spirit. The same spirit yenye ilikuwa ina operate back then. It is operating now. Imagine we have families wenye a man is a director of a company. Employ a man amfanyie job, but analala na wife ya that same man and ana apologies. That is making a fool out of this man who is working for him. But because he feels he's the director, he's got position, he's got ranks, hana apologies, analala na bibi yake. Hiyo ni kudharau mtu. Utadharau mtu aje kiwango hicho? Na wewe as a wife, mbona unadharauisha bibi bwana yako? Mbona unajidunisha hata unajikosea heshima? Why? That is so wrong. So David alishindwa kufanya hiyo mipango ingiane ati ndio boli ati ikwe ya Uriah. So when it failed, ndio alienda to some extent ya kusema yekwe line ya mbele kwenye defense ilikuwa so strong auliwe. And God was watching all this. And imagine after Uriah aliuliwa, alienda akachukua Bathsheba. Hakustop, alichukua Bathsheba akamfanya wife yake. Hapa ndipo God alisema, no David, in the extreme. This is now when God alishuka through his prophet. And we all know venye kulienda. So let us avoid situations whereby tutaingizwa into sexual immorality ama tutaingiza wengine into sexual immorality. If you are there and you have a position, you have a rank, you've got influence and power, don't misuse that position. Kama unasaidia mtu, msaidie roho safi. Kama hutamsaidia, please wachana na yeye. You are not obliged to help somebody. Kama una roho ya kusaidia, just wachana na mtu. Don't take advantage. Ukumbuke hiyo position ulipewa na God. The same God who exalted you is the same God who brings people down. He's the same God anadunishanga wafalme, anawafanya nothing. So please be careful. Do not misuse your position or rank or influence. Utumie hiyo position vizuri, tumia rank yako vizuri, tumia influence yako vizuri na power yako vizuri. Si kuenta watu into sexual immorality. And this cuts both ways. Kama uko pale, don't let anybody take advantage of their position, influence and power to enter you into sexual sin. No. Be bold enough. Whoever it is, mwambie no, I will not enter into sexual immorality. Kwani ni nini hiyo wanakupatia yenye God hawezi kupatia? Just be firm in your decision. Just say no and that's it. The other example we are going to look at is found in Matthew 14, but a more detailed story in Mark 6. This is the story of Herodias and King Herod. Sasa si tunajua John the Baptist was very zealous for God. Prophecy yake hakuwa anabahatisha. Somebody who was called from birth. Prophecy yake hakuwa anabahatisha. And alikuwa so serious and to the point. So what he did, you remember when David entered into sexual sin, Prophet Nathan ni alitumwa na God kwake. But Prophet Nathan hakuenda direct kwa David amshoniaji, ulichukua Bathsheba, ukaua husband yake, ukamchukua nene. Alitumia mafumbo, alitumia wisdom, akapitia njia za mbali, amekuja mpaka akafika home. Akafikishia David point yake as a king. Because the Bible says, usitake kupatana na radhi ya mfalme. Radhi ya mfalme ni kifo. So Nathan alijua, I need to approach this thing with wisdom. Cause mfalme ni mtu wa kuapproachwa na wisdom, you know. So now, John the prophet, there's a difference. Nathan was a prophet, John was a prophet. But Nathan alitumia wisdom kucommunicatea David sini yake. But sasa John hakutumia wisdom, alienda to the point. Akamshoniaji, you King Herod, hii story nasikia umechukua wife ya brathako. Now, King Herod had a brother called Philip. Now, Philip had a wife called Herodias. So, King Herod amechukua wife ya brathake Philip, Herodias, na amemchukua kama wife. So, niaji unabii kashuka. So, John went to King Herod and told him, you know what? This idea of having your brother's wife as your wife is not good. I think it is not proper. Unafaa umwachilie. So I think King Herod either alienda akashare na Herodias, but bottom line ya Herodias alijua kenye John amefanya. So akanas a grudge, akasema oh. So John the prophet anasema King Herod aniache. Hivyo ndivyo anasema. Ati sipo akuwe na mimi. Atajua. So now Herodias akaplot to have John killed, and she waited for the opportune time. Mark chapter 6 verses 17. For Herod himself had given orders to have John arrested, and he had him bound and put in prison. He did this because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, whom he had married. For John had been saying to Herod, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." He had been saying, hakusema once, he had been saying. So wakipatana na mshoniaji, wachana na wife ya brathako. Niaji, wachana na wife ya brother. He had been saying, not he said, he had been. So it was a habit every time aki. So Herodias nursed a grudge against John and wanted to kill him. But she was not able to because Herod feared John and protected him, knowing him to be a righteous and holy man. When Herod heard John, he was greatly puzzled, yet he liked to listen to him. Finally, the opportune time came. On his birthday, Herod gave a banquet for his officials, for his high officials and military commanders and the leading men of Galilee. When the daughter of Herodias came in and danced, she pleased Herod and his dinner guests. The king said to the girl, "Ask me for anything you want and I'll give you." Guy, you know, king akisema kitu, ako held na oath, haezi change. King akisema kitu, akisema atafanya kitu, lazima iwe. That is why the kings had the signet ring. Chochote kilipitishwa na naeka hiyo signet ring, haingechenjiwa na mtu. Hata yeye mwenyewe hangechange. So imagine, he promised her by oath, "Whatever you ask, I will give you up to half my kingdom." You remember that is what happened to Esther. Yani, King Xerxes alijieka na hiyo oath. Akambia Esther niaji whatever you want, even to have up to half of my kingdom. She went out and said to her mother, that is Herodias, "What shall I ask for?" "The head of John the Baptist," she answered. Imagine haku hesitate, cause alikuwa na grudge, alikuwa na wait for an opportune time. Akasema niaji, itisha kichwa ya John the Baptist. And because the king had already said it on oath, hange change. Na imagine, unaona King Herod used to love John. Alikuwa anajua he's a righteous and holy man. Alikuwa anampenda, hata alikuwa anapenda kumsikiza. But because he'd already sworn on oath, he could not change it. So the girl hurried into the king with a request. "I want you to give me right now the head of John the Baptist on a platter." Guy. The king was greatly distressed, but because of his oath and his dinner guest, he did not want to refuse her. So he immediately sent an executioner with orders to bring John's head. The man went, beheaded John in the prison, and brought back his head on a platter. He presented it to the girl, and she gave it to her mother. On hearing of this, John's disciples came and took his body and laid it in a tomb. John alizikwa bila kichwa. Juu kichwa iliachwa na Herodias. It is so sad. Just like I said, there are people who can't take a no for an answer. King Herod alikuwa ameambiwa aachane na Herodias. But Herodias alikuwa so ambitious. Akona bwana Philip. Na by the way, si ati the late Philip. Alikuwa humuhumu. Hakuwa the late Philip. Alikuwa uhai. But Herodias atambui, anataka kuwa na king. You remember we said, kuna watu, they want to be identified with watu wenye wako in position. Yani they are throwing themselves at people with positions. So Herodias alikuwa anataka kuwa identified na King Herod. So yeye, venye John the Baptist alikuja akasema, you know what? Kata relationship yako na this lady, because this lady belongs to you, brother. Imagine, Herodias mwenyewe ni alisikia vibaya. Akanasa grudge. Hadi kifo ya John. It is this bad. So, inaonekana hata Herodias alikuwa into this. She was for this issue of being King Herod's wife. This is sexual immorality. Uko na bwana but unataka uolewe na mwingine because he's a king. Na yeye King Herod anachukua wife ya bwana mwingine. It is wrong. So both of them were sexually immoral. John the prophet kept telling Herod. Inamaanisha King Herod was not ready to give up on Herodias. Herodias was not ready to give up on King Herod. So unaona, they were both into this thing of sexual immorality. Unaona, position, influence na rank ilikuwa inafanya King Herod aone, I can take my brother's wife without apologies. Na si ati amekufa. Na yeye Herodias, juni kuna wale wanawake wanakuanga ambitious and greedy and gold diggers as they are called in the modern day life. Alitaka sana kuwa identified ama kuunganishwa na mfalme. Alikuwa anataka sana kuwa bibi ya mfalme. So this is one way in which the Asian dragon captures its victims into its mouth. Positions, power or influence, and ranks. Let us move away from this way in which the Asian dragon captures its victims. Let us learn to fear the Lord. Let us learn to put our trusts in the Lord. And also to remember that promotion does not come from the east or west. Promotion comes from God. The same people who are taking advantage of their position, ranks, and influence to enter others into sexual immorality, waliinuliwa na Mungu. Na the same God anaweza washusha. So usihemee mtu juu ya position yake ama influence yake ama rank yake uingie into sexual immorality. Fix your eyes, fix your gaze on Jesus, the author and finisher of your faith. He who started a good work in you will be ready to finish it. He did not bring you into this world to suffer. So mtu asikutisha na title zake that you cannot have a job if you don't sleep with me. Do not let anybody enter you into sexual immorality. Join me next week as we look at the last way in which the Asian dragon enters its victims into its mouth. Do not miss. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. You can follow us on Facebook at Kingly Favor Studio Reloaded, YouTube at Kingly Favor Studio, TikTok at Kingly Favor Studio Reloaded, Instagram at Kingly Favor Studio. So long. God bless you.